Welcome. You're listening to this week's episode of the This Had Better Work podcast with your hosts, Angela, Holly, and Craig.
Welcome to the This Had Better Work podcast. My name is Craig and I own Vertice Data Analysis. And I am joined today with the lovely
Angela.
Angela. Angela, what's your
I,
background?
I'm an artist who operates Lalo Bear Studio. I specialize in ink drawings, paintings from a female perspective, kind of regarding myths and fairy tales reinterpreted. And I also am doing right now G-clay reproductions or prints.
Now you're going to have to break that down. I have no idea what that means.
It's just a method of printing that's more archival. It allows me to scan in my artwork. It's just like a reproduction because I feel you're limited in who can appreciate your work, and when it's just the one piece, the one original. So I'm experimenting with this.
And when you think about it, it's like art is everywhere, whether we understand it or realize it or not, especially when you see t-shirts. A lot of t-shirts now are getting very abstract, with the imagery and the slogans and all that kind of thing. So we see art, we may not appreciate it as art, but someone sat down and actually created that from nothing, and it became this thing that someone wanted. So, it's just like you said, you're expanding it to other people and other media.
Yeah. For a while I held on to that the exclusive, but as I've gotten older, I've kind of questioned, like, why is this something only, a certain group can appreciate? Why not allow more people to access it? So we'll see how it goes.
Do you think that you would have like different tiers? Like you have like I don't know how that would work though with art, but could you have like a more exclusive brand, like a separate brand, like this is more exclusive. It's, oh, well, I didn't even know that was an Angela Wilson situation. I just knew it was, the gold standard and it's just this thing. But then you also have the more accessible ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can always still have the original, like and in my case, it might be the actual paint on applied to the canvas.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
And then the print is on archival paper, with archival inks, and but it's not the same as the actual original where you can see the artist's hand in the work. I think I just got to a point where I was tired of everyone telling me that it was impossible to live as an artist, and so I'm stubborn and I'm just going to solve this problem. It's an seemingly impossible problem, but I just thought, let's see what we can do.
Before I continue, I want to say that for those who want to view your art, I do put links in our descriptions of our shows so they can go directly to your Instagram page to look at those. But what you're saying, though, kind of translates, kind of segues into our topic for today, because we're talking about benchmarking. And when I mentioned about the top tier and the lower tier, and as you were talking in response to that, I started thinking about car companies. Like you have Cadillac. Cadillac is its own brand and it's the exclusive. It's just for those, especially it's becoming even more exclusive with these very high prices they're charging. So there's like a top tier, but then you have the Buicks, you have the Chevrolet and all those other ones that are more, in quotes, affordable for people to drive, but it's still the same car company with just different brands and different audiences in mind.
It's interesting because you sent the video. I think it was a video about benchmarking, and I think there just, for me, there just aren't enough examples of like what's the standard that I'm trying to reach. I was really thinking hard about it, and I was like, well, there are the artists living in larger, like New York, who are receiving accolades and reimbursed well for their work, but it's just trying to find that middle ground. I don't know that there are enough examples of that, so I'm going to have to keep thinking.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up though, because there was another article, and I did not send this to you because I just found it myself.
Oh,
I looked at this one because this is on ideafoster.com, and it says examples of benchmarking in large companies. Now there's Starbucks,
mhm.
and Starbucks used Toyota as a benchmark
Oh,
to redesign its workspace. So it doesn't even have to be in the same industry or the same genre.
mhm.
Starbucks is like, food and drink and all that kind of thing. But it found a benchmark in the car company, Toyota, and said, okay, we're
Mhm.
trying to redesign our stores inside. How does Toyota, I don't know if they use their factory. I don't know if they use their showrooms. I don't know what they did, but there was something about Toyota that caught Starbucks's eye and said we can kind of integrate some of their things that they do into what we do to become more people pleasing, basically. So going back to what you're saying, it may not even be found in the art world.
Mhm.
It may be even in construction. It may be in something totally that you're not even thinking about. So I
Yeah.
guess the thing is like what am I trying to achieve? Like putting that down, like what am I trying to when I think about it, what am I trying to achieve? What is that thing? And then who is doing that thing well? And then what can I pull from them into my own process?
Yeah, something I've been reading. We had a meeting about this a while ago, but your brand advocate or your perfect, the customer that you're targeting and getting so detailed about this customer. It's like, where do they like to shop? What kind of car do they drive? And I think car companies do a really good job of, I think we also discussed this, like Jeep has a personality, Cadillac has
Yes.
a personality, right? Like we
Hmm.
we know immediately who their brand advocate, or we get an image in our minds of who drives a Cadillac,
Hmm.
like yeah. So I keep thinking about applying that to my business.
But even with that though, talking about
Mhm.
Cadillac for the longest time in my mind was older person, gray hair,
Mhm.
retired, made a lot of money, they're living the good life, going to Florida, that kind of thing was the image for the longest time. It was like the luxury, you finally made it, you have the big
Yeah.
house, that kind of thing. But then Cadillac went through a period of time where their sales were just off. Just no one was buying it because the cars were too big. They had that stodgy kind of reputation about them. And then they had to reinvent the wheel and become more youth focused. Now we are sport,
Mhm.
our cars are sportier, they are faster, they have these really nice colors, they're smaller,
Aw.
they're not for families, they're for like individuals or couples. They try to in our minds reimagine who the Cadillac was
Mhm.
for, because one of my brothers has a Cadillac, and it's like a souped up, turn it on and it's shaking the ground kind of thing. Before he would have even thought about a Cadillac, but once they came with the CTS and the STS and all these other STs and the F5s and all this kind of stuff, he started looking into it, and he finally got one. But again, Cadillac had to look around to see, okay, who are we trying to get to? What appeals to those people, and how do we put that message out there? And so I'm sure they
Mhm.
looked around to see, where do these people shop? What do they drive now? What kind of clothes do they wear? That kind of
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
to get a clearer picture of what they're trying to do. But I think what it is that you have to identify what you're trying to do first,
Mhm.
and then look into the marketplace to see who's doing that. Because if you just say, well, I just want to find a benchmark to do better, like better how?
It's overwhelming because when you're a young business, it's like you want to do better at everything, like yeah. So it's good to have I think some focus, because otherwise you could just get overwhelmed and your energy will be frittered away in all different directions, and you
Yes.
probably won't get anywhere.
I'm going to read you another thing from this article, one that I found interesting. Now, I wasn't too surprised about the Starbucks Toyota thing because I had heard about companies using even different industries altogether. This was one that I thought was really interesting. This is McDonald's. It says, in this case, the company carried out a detailed study of the profiles of its regular customers in Spain. So McDonald's looked at itself, but only in certain areas, like in the country of Spain. This allowed them to know much better the performance of their restaurants as well as the preferences of their customers. So it wasn't like they even looked at a different industry, a different whatever. They just said, okay, who in our own company is doing a good job, and what are they doing that we can kind of roll out to the rest of our customers across the
Oh,
world.
yeah.
So even with you, it's like, well, what do you do well? I know you do art well. You do, and before I move forward, I have to talk about this because you always have stuff that comes out between the time I talked to you last and the time I talk to you now. And then just, okay, I got to ask you what's going on. Okay. So there was, I'm trying to remember, there's a guy. What's eating the guy? Like there's something coming down and eating his head. Something
I'm
with like a lot of teeth.
I think that's a woman. Is it black and white?
No, no, I think it's like
Oh, is it animated? Is it moving?
this. I don't remember this one moving. I just know that there was a guy in the middle. He has like some white underwear on or something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this was just my sense of humor. Like you have relationship issues and you're just like, why is this guy putting up with me? And the guy has his head like in the mouth of a lioness. It's like he
That's what it
knows,
was. Right, right. Okay.
yeah, he knows she's going to eat him and he just doesn't care. So it's like, so, that's personal. That's, yeah, going on in my life. So yeah, I'm just like, and to
Okay,
me, it's
without
funny.
revealing too much about what's going on in your life, you're actually consuming
Yeah.
somebody right now.
Yeah, I'm just like, why do you put up with me? I'm
Okay, so okay, so that's something. That's
Mhm.
something you do well. You have a niche where you speak to the female perspective.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Now, a female may have gotten it. I didn't get it. I was like, I don't know what's her fascination with people getting eaten. Last time was a woman getting eaten by a fish.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't know. I didn't know what it was, but you do that well. You convey that messaging. I don't know why I'm using my hands like this. You convey your messaging really well. And sometimes you have to explain it, but once you explain it, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. I get it. And I
Yeah.
understand it. Could it be that you look at what you do well? You're able to put those ideas down well on paper, on canvas. You do that well. Can you use some of how you do that to promote yourself well? Like
Mhm.
first of all, who is this message for? It's for primarily women, in this case, this particular painting anyway, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And yeah.
what can I do, painting this picture for women, the experiences of women. How do I use that the way I do that to promote this not only to women but to everyone? I don't know how you do that. I'm just bringing it up. It sounds good in
Mhm.
my head, me saying it, but I don't know how you would do it. But
Yeah. Yeah, but I like actually I like hearing your perspective because it gives me insight into when I'm drawing, am I making this clear enough, or is it almost a bit too vague?
when you sit down to create something, how do you begin? Like, do you already have the finished thing in your mind? Or as you're going through it, you just kind of, well, yes, I want to put this in there. Like, how does that flow?
I think it starts with an overwhelming urge to just kind of purge emotions or frustration or whatever we're going through as our shared experiences as humans. Like, we all have struggles in our in our intimate relationships. I mean, because they're hard to navigate sometimes. Yeah, so those feelings bubble up inside of me, and then I just surrender to this kind of place where I play. I just allow whatever images kind of reveal themselves, well, that's silly, but I just, instead of saying no to it, I just draw it out until I find something that just kind of clicks. Like we had talked before, like if I feel like the entire world is on my shoulders and I can't do anything right, and for me that metaphor again was something else eating you, but it was like the big fish coming in and continuing to push you down under the water, like the struggle against just day to day. Yeah. So, and I think we all do that in our own way. Like, someone might say, "Hey, how was your day today?" And you might not just say like, "Oh, it was terrible." You'd be like, "Well, I just felt like I couldn't keep my head above the water," or,
Right.
like we speak that way. And so I kind of draw that way, I guess.
So again, using the way you approach your art, you really don't push a lot of ideas away. You kind of play with them a little bit. I think the same thing
Yeah.
could be useful in the way you promote your artwork as well, or yourself as well. It's like, okay, that's a silly idea, but instead of me pushing that idea away, how can I kind of mold it into something that I can use? Again, using what you do as an artist as a benchmark to help you solve your other problem, promoting yourself. We had talked about this before. We had mentioned, we had brought up benchmarking in one of our meetings last in 2023, and I really kind of wanted to revisit this because I wanted to see where we are now, to see if we've done anything. I
Mhm.
myself, I don't know if I mentioned this back then, but I was using Lay's potato chips. For some reason, I was using Lay's
Oh.
potato chips to try to figure out how to present an idea to smaller businesses that may feel like this isn't for me. I don't exactly know where it is. Data analysis.
Mhm.
This is for larger companies, so on and so forth. I was using Lay's because I wanted to say, okay, Lay's didn't exist. I mean, potato chips didn't exist at some point. And then
Right.
Lay's somehow came into the story, or whoever Lay's used to be in the very beginning. How did they convince people to try this chip to the point where it's become this billion-dollar industry?
Mhm.
I wanted to look at the beginning of that journey and then say, okay, I'm at the very beginning of mine as well. How do I apply some of the things that they did, the messaging, the trials, that kind of thing, to encourage people to try data analysis to see, yes, this is a snack. It's a very good snack. It's
Yeah.
going to have different flavors. Same thing for me. It's like, okay, yes, this is data analysis. This is for you. We have different products and services that you can use to help you. Use them as the example. However, I did switch when I was doing my website. I looked at Progressive Insurance and Geico because I don't know if you see my website or not. But anyway, I created a little character, that little lizard character,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
like the little lizard, the gecko
Yeah.
from Geico. And
Uh-huh.
so I said, some companies have those signature characters. Maybe I should create a character myself to kind of have an identity. You see that, oh, I know what that is. So I used Geico to kind of solve the problem of identity, trying to again have
Mhm.
something identifiable, and then also use Progressive because you look at a Progressive commercial now, and it has nothing to do with insurance. They're out at the beach. They're doing all kinds of different stuff. And at the very end, it's something about the insurance. So it's like, well, how did they get to the point where they moved about from away from directly talking about insurance to just having this fun, enjoyable commercial that just happens to be from an insurance company? And I think in our minds now we say, oh, you're just living your life, you're doing regular things like these people are doing, and insurance is the backstop. Insurance is the thing that keeps your life running smooth just in case things don't happen. So I
Mhm.
look at those two things as benchmarks for me to say, how do I get there? And use incrementally how they did that to get to where they are now. I'm curious to see, have you used benchmarks at all since we last talked? Can you think of anything that you've done or looked at some other, I know you said you looked around at some different artists and things like that to kind of see what they were doing. But
Yeah.
anybody else or anything else?
I can't remember the name of the artist or the business that she runs, but I had noticed we were following the same, I guess they're a marketing company online. I thought, oh, that's interesting. She's applying branding, to her work. And I did notice then that she was kind of using the same color palette, typography. I went to then this company's website, and they had a free template that you could download on Canva where you put in like your business's colors
Oh,
and
really?
font, and like
Okay.
it helps you then begin to be consistent in all of
Hmm.
your materials and on your website, your social media. And it helped me a lot because I started thinking about like what colors best represent. And I was looking through all of my recent work, and I was like, well, what colors am I using more often? You make decisions like when you were looking at the insurance companies, and then you decided to use that lizard. I remember you've been gravitating to more of a bright color palette
Hmm. Well,
because
that's because we had that meeting one time, and you were talking about color schemes as part of the topic that you had chosen. And I have been purposely trying to move into greens and things like that.
yeah, versus like the more serious, like I'm not sure if your logo before was it like a darker color and then like
Yeah, I think it was maybe black. It's changed so much, I don't remember.
yeah, I understand mine is too. Yeah, I just remember it had a more serious kind of feel to it, where now
Hmm.
it's like your color scheme is more vibrant, like more accessible, it's like a completely different, well, we're talking about brand advocates, like a completely different person,
Hmm.
like that you imagine in your mind. And there was nothing wrong with the previous person. It's just like different ways of, how I feel about your company, I guess. So in the other way, I feel like, oh, maybe, that service is not just for the upper echelon of like society. This is something that I can access.
Hmm.
So
And I'm glad you said that, because that is something that I was trying to convey. I was trying to convey a more accessible type of feel. And so I'm glad that is how you're receiving it, because that's the way I wanted it to be presented and perceived as well. So I'm glad that for that feedback. Well, I do hope that you actually crack this code. I hope that you crack the code for
yeah.
because the thing about it is, though, Angela, is you are serious about it. You're not just saying, okay, if it works, it works. I hope it works. I would like for it to work. You're saying, no, there is a way to crack this code. There is a way for artists to be successful, like real artists, not that people who are doing other types of art are not real artists, but at the level that you're at, I can make a living at this and I can actually do this. There's a way to do it and be successful at it. And I'm going to figure it out. And I feel like you will, because you're actually putting the things that we talk about into practice. You're going back and you're weaving those
Yeah.
things in. And again, you're looking around for, ideas from different things and different people, and pulling those things in to become your own experience. So I think that's really good. So I'm only looking forward to seeing, in the future what you come up with, because I know that you're going to be the one to do it.
Well, I think that's something we all have in common, though, as entrepreneurs, is like a persistence and stubborn nature, like, so, and the companies that you're talking about, I don't know the story of Lay's, but I'm sure at some point someone said to this person, oh, you'll never make a living selling potato chips.
Potato, exactly. Who's going to buy potato chips? They're like potatoes are
Yeah.
everywhere, and you're going to sell chip. Like, who's going to buy that?
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, I think we have that in common, which is, don't lose that. Yeah, because even if you have to pivot a little bit, like, there is a reason why you were born stubborn and,
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. Well, Angela, thank you so much for joining us today. We're almost out of time as usual. Is winding down. Is there anything else you want to mention before we go? Do you have anything coming up that you any exhibits or anything going on?
I'm very focused right now on building up my brand because I have kind of this other Instagram page, which is the work that I exhibit. I've really neglected that in favor of just trying to make the more marketable work kind of go.
I do know that you have quite a few. In fact, almost every time I go to Instagram, I see new art that you put out there. So you have a lot. So if anyone wants to go out there and look at your work, please do so. She has a lot of very interesting things. And if you want clarification on what they mean, send her a comment. Say, hey, I like this particular art, but what does this mean? Like, what does it mean to you? And I'm sure that I'm putting words in your mouth. Maybe you won't respond. I don't know, but I'm
Yeah,
sure that
of course I
she will
will.
communicate with you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So again, thank you so much, people, for joining us for the This Had Better Work podcast. We hope that you are enjoying this. I enjoy making this. I always enjoy seeing Angela every couple of weeks and having these discussions. And we would love to hear from you, your comments, your suggestions, your critiques. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and also let other people know about it as well, so we can continue to spread the good news about being in business and being encouraged and celebrating our successes, and not dwelling too much on the failings. So, Angela, thank you so much for joining me, and I want everyone to have a great day. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you. Bye.